we're on. Good evening. So I thought I'd do a little costume change, put this on so you can see my shirt again. But it's 3:30 now and everyone's gone home, so it's just me. So I thought I would go back into this position because I'm really good. I've got my phone positioned. I know exactly how to do this, so I thought I would read the next chapter. But thank you. I've had loads of emails today. I've seen loads of fantastic pictures. Harley did an amazing picture of the chocolate factory with lots of sweets. I had lots of emails. Kyle, amazing. He wrote me a really detailed description about the chocolate factory and a really great drawing. Something from Stephanie and Benjamin. They drew me some pictures of Oompa Loompas. What is an Oompa Loompa? So that leads us on, doesn't it? So we're at the bit in the book where Grandpa Joe was saying about these workers and who was working in the factory, because they didn't know who was going in there, who was doing all the work. So I'm going to read the next chapter, which is chapter 4, and hopefully that'll tell us, and it's called The Secret Workers. The next evening, Grandpa Joe went on with his story. "You see, Charlie," he said, "not so very long ago, there used to be thousands of people working in Mr. Willy Wonka's factory. Then one day, all of a sudden, Mr. Wonka had to ask every single one of them to leave, to go home and to never come back." "But why?" asked Charlie. "Because of spies." Spies? Yes, all the other chocolate makers, you see, had begun to grow jealous of the wonderful sweets that Mr. Wonka was making, and they started sending in spies to steal his secret recipes. The spies took jobs in the Wonka factory, pretending that they were ordinary workers, and while they were there, each of them found out exactly how certain things were made. "And did they go back to their own factories and tell?" asked Charlie. "They must have," said Grandpa Joe, "because soon after that, Finkelgruber's factory started making an ice cream that would never melt, even in the hottest sun. Then Mr. Prodno's factory came out with a chewing gum that never lost its flavour, however much you chewed it. And then Mr. Slugworth's factory began making sugar balloons that you could blow up to huge sizes before you popped them with a pin and gobbled them up. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And Mr. Willy Wonka tore his beard and shouted, 'This is terrible! I shall be ruined! There are spies everywhere! I shall have to close the factory!' "But he didn't do that," Charlie said. "Oh, yes, he did. He told all the workers that he was sorry, but they would have to go home. Then he shut the main gates and fastened with a chain. And suddenly, Wonka's giant chocolate factory became silent and deserted. The chimney stopped smoking, the machine stopped whirring, and from then on, not a single chocolate or sweet was made. Not a soul went in or out, and even Mr. Willy Wonka himself disappeared completely. Months and months went by. Grandpa Joe went on, but still the factory remained closed, and everybody said, 'Poor Mr. Wonka, he was so nice, and he made such marvellous things, but he's finished now, it's all over.' Then something astonishing happened. One day, early in the morning, thin columns of white smoke were seen to be coming out of the tops of the tall chimneys in the factory. People in the town stopped and stared. 'What's going on?' they cried. 'Someone's lit the furnaces. Mr. Wonka must be opening up again.' They ran to the gates, expecting to see them wide open, and Mr. Wonka standing there to welcome his workers back. But no. The great iron gates were still locked, and chained as securely as ever, and Mr. Wonka was nowhere to be seen. "But the factory is working," the people shouted. "Listen, you can hear the machines. They're all whirring again, and you can smell the smell of melting chocolate in the air." Grandpa Joe leaned forward and laid a long, bony finger on Charlie's knee, and he said softly, "But mysterious of all, Charlie, were the shadows in the windows of the factory." The people standing in the street could see small dark shadows moving about behind the frosted glass windows. "Shadows of whom?" said Charlie quickly. That's exactly what everybody else wanted to know. "The place is full of workers," the people shouted. "But nobody's gone in. The gates are locked. It's crazy. Nobody ever comes out either." But there was no question at all, said Grandpa Joe, that the factory was running. Yeah, it was running. And it had gone running ever since, for the last 10 years. What's more, the chocolates and sweets it's been turning out have become even more fantastic and delicious all the time. They get better and better. And of course now, when Mr. Wonka invents some new and wonderful sweet, neither Mr. Finkelgruber, nor Mr. Prodnose, nor Mr. Slugworth, no anybody else is able to copy it. No spies can get into the factory to find out how it is made. "But Grandpa, who," cried Charlie, "who is Mr. Wonka using to do all the work in the factory?" "Nobody knows, Charlie." "But that's absurd. Hasn't someone asked Mr. Wonka?" "Nobody sees him anymore. He never comes out. The only thing that comes out of that place are chocolates and sweets. They come out through a special trap door in the wall, all packed and addressed, and they are picked up every day by a post office trucks." "But Grandpa, what sort of people are they that work in there?" "My dear boy," said Grandpa Joe, "that is one of the great mysteries of the chocolate-making world. We know only one thing about them. They are very small. The faint shadows that sometimes appear in the windows, especially late at night when the lights are on, are those of tiny people. People no taller than my knee." "There aren't any such people," Charlie said. But then Mr. Bucket, Charlie's father, came into the room. He was home from the toothpaste factory, and he was waving an envelope. He was waving an evening newspaper rather excitedly. "Have you heard the news? Have you heard the news? Great news, great news," he cried. He held up the paper so that they could see the huge line, the huge headline. The headline said, "Wonka Factory to be opened at last to lucky few." Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. So, who works in that factory? Some of you already know. Some of you read it. So, lucky few. It's going to be open to a lucky few. So who is going to go in the factory? How are they going to choose these people to go in the factory? I tell you what. Write me something. Write me something about how do you think Mr. Willy Wonka is going to choose people to go in the factory? What kind of people is it going to be? Is it adults? Is it teachers? Is it doctors? Is it nurses? Is it policemen? Is it lawyers? Is it children? Who's going to go in the factory? And what are they going to find in the factory? Well, that's very good. I managed to get all the way through that because I can hear that Esther is coming up the stairs and she's going to open the door in a minute and then I'm going to have to press stop. So that's the next instalment. Have a great evening. I hope you've worked really hard today. Have you? Have you? I'm looking at you all. Wilfred. I hope you've been working really hard today. I bet you have. Well, guys, miss you. And look on the website because I put something up from Dennis. He sent you all a message. and I'll see you soon. Where should I go tomorrow? Should I go and sit in the adventure playground? Yeah. See you later. Bye.